Now then, so just before I get started, I am trying to push for 1,000 subs. So if you could subscribe, it would really help me out. When I reach that, I'm going to do some giveaways, we'll do some special streams, all those kind of things, so you can get involved with that. But we'll go on too much about that kind of stuff. It's a new season. We've had bounce patch, a bit on the minor side. Nothing huge was really done. Few cards tweaked, that kind of thing. I think the meta is not going to shift too much. I mean, jackpot has basically been unaffected. You just shift a few provisions around, it's fine. Kind of the same for ball and for NR and all those kind of things. But if you've never watched these videos before, in my 6 factions, 6 decks videos, I cover 6 decks that I'm going to be either like trying out or using a lot this season. This isn't a meta snapshot by any means. This is what I'm going to use. Here's some ideas for stuff, and I'll just tell you if I've used it and I can say for sure it's good, or if it's something I want to try and it maybe needs refining. Just more as an ideas kind of thing if you're stuck on what to play. Just before anyone says, "Oh, you're saying this is tier 1," I'm not. These are the best decks for each faction. Just what I'm personally going to give a bit of a try. But I think after last season, I'm ready for a bit of a chill out. I did end up. I wasn't initially planning to, but I did end up seeing how high I could go basically. Because I hit like 10k MMR pretty early on. I was like, okay, we'll see what we can do. Ended up about 240th last week or so. I just really couldn't get in the groove of it, so I missed out on top 200. But is what it is. So without further ado, we'll go into the decks. So to start off, we have monsters, and this is a bit of a weird one. This is something that I've been sort of wanting to try out, and I've just not got around to it. But it's a list I kind of threw together a long while ago. I know people have done very similar kind of things, like a unitless Araka's Swarm list, where the general idea is, as a sort of final play, you've got your Frightener on the board, use your leader to get a load of ones spawned, and then Glusty Warp eats them all, spawns out the Frightener, Glusty Warp goes huge, and that's like a 33-point finisher from 2 cards in your leader, which is pretty good. And then you just run a load of annoying stuff. So you run a load of organics because your leader synergizes with that well. You run a ton of toll removal, a ton of just ping kind of stuff, and kind of pray that it gives you enough value. And I mean, I like the look of the list. I'll need to give it a try before I can say for sure if it's good or bad, but I think there's potential here. There's a lot of potential here. And I guess we're going to have to see. I don't think it's like a tier 1 list, but I'm a sucker for unitless control kind of strategies, so it's right on my alley. So for Nilfgaard, I'm trying something a little different here. Basically, when I was looking at my ball deck from last season, and it had lost like 3 provisions, and it's just every single season it just gets more and more expensive to run the sort of aristocrats and ball kind of thing. And it initially started off, I just cut ball, and I was like, okay, if we cut ball, because a lot of people are running Karathi anyway, obviously it is a lot of points, but theoretically there's something we can do with those extra provisions. And then it kind of just evolved straight back into an Emir kind of list, looking to get a load of spies on the board, look for Imperial forces to get a lot of value there. So we've got a few things going on. We're running 1 Blightmaker because the idea is our leader can just pull the second Mage Assassin. I was a bit stuck on what card we'd want to put on top of our deck, so I was like, okay, we'll just save the provisions on a Blightmaker, and we'll just treat it like that. And if we don't want to do that, say we take a Blightmaker off Vigo, for example, and we don't have Mage Assassins left, then we can use leader to maybe put a card we want to draw at the top, or we can guarantee something for Joachim, something like that. We're not cornered into that, but the option's there. And basically what we're looking to do is just get a load of points on the board with things like Emir, and if we can get like a seditious aristocrat to stick, or the Empyrean Forces, and then Emir sticks, something like that, and then spies are spawning, we're getting pings every turn. And I mean, Nilfgaard naturally has a lot of points in the form of like Brathens, Joachim and Ku, and all that kind of fun stuff, so we're just kind of looking to benefit from that rather than relying on ball. I think this is more going to be a test for myself to kind of see how important ball is, because I think sometimes when you run it, you aren't noticing how important it has been or not. So it's more of a test for me to see if see how important it is. I think it probably is very important, but we shall see. We shall see. So for Northern Realms, going back to one of my old staple kind of lists, which is mobilization. I always really loved that Redanian Archer, Revenant spam kind of list, and I basically just took that and I spiced it up a little bit, following the changes that have happened sort of over the past few months or so. So what we've done now is we've chucked in a siege, purely because reinforced ballista alone is kind of enough to carry it, and chucked in a couple of siege engines. We've got the Adalia, we have a ton of control tools, and we're basically looking to do that kind of stuff. We're looking to just control the board, remove tall stuff, generate points very passively through absolutely tons of engines, damage engines, which are infinitely better than point engines because less susceptible to removal. And that's kind of the plan. We can get Revenants to stick relatively nicely because we have 2 Revenants, 2 Forbidden Magics, Triss that can give us a Forbidden Magic, Adalia can spawn a Revenant, our leader can spawn a Revenant. It's pretty difficult for everything but the most control heavy decks to stop that. We also are chucked in as a little tech choice running a Chaos Knight because they changed that to 4 provisions now. 6 power for 4 provisions. It's already basically the same points as like a pact or something. But it's really good in the Nilfgaard matchup because you're transforming a unit, so you can use it on, say, a Joachim, and Joachim becomes a Chaos Knight, and it's kind of useless for them on your board. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I'll be interested to see how this gets on. It used to be very good, sort of 2 or 3 seasons ago, kind of fallen out of favour a little bit, but it's a deck I really enjoy, so I want to see if there's any hope for it, any chance we can bring it back. Now for Scoia'tael, gone for something that will probably look a bit weird. It's like a Nature's Gift elf spam kind of list, because I'm usually pretty much a big fan of like swarm strategies. I also really like elves in general, like Find Death and everything like that. And it was mainly when I was kind of thinking about cards in general, and one like nice little interaction that sort of came to mind was the Whisper of Dolblethana, which is the 3 power unit with Veil that spawns a copy of itself when you play a special. I was thinking about that's interaction with Find Death, so because it's an elf, it'll trigger the third part of Find Death, like the final thing that spawns a Waylay, which will then get an instant trigger on your Whisperer, and this kind of evolved just from that line of thought. The cat's being very loud, sorry about that one. So we're just basically doing a kind of almost like a hybrid of the Nature's Gift stuff and the elf stuff, where we have, Hammer Dryads and tons of nature cards and all that kind of stuff, and then we have Venosiel and Find Death and a load of elves, and I managed to squeeze it all into a list. And then we got Gezrus. Why not? Chuck a Gezrus in there, because you would hope we're going to have a fair amount of units on the board with Find Death and, just the way Nature's Gift works. So maybe it works, maybe it's terrible. I guess there's only one way for us to find out. Scoia'tael's not in too great of a situation anyway, so I'm pretty happy to experiment with Scoia'tael for a bit, because I don't see them being like a above 2500 faction for me. So yeah, bit of experimentation time. Then for Skellige, this is probably the only super like meta kind of list. It's the list that's it's getting a bit of popularity recently, where you're just playing a lot of witches, you're running megascopes to copy great swords and uh, the bear witches. You're running a portal for your bear witch adepts. You've even got like an Avalax Sage in there to pull one of your artifacts because you're literally running, I think it's 5 artifacts. So it's like a very consistent control heavy deck. Although it's like a mid range kind of deck, the amount of control tools is kind of ludicrous in terms of like toll removal. So it's one I didn't really get around to playing last season, and so I kind of want to pick it up this season. I think it's in general a pretty good list. I know it's Madoc. People seem to hate Madoc. I think I hate Madoc, but yeah, we'll give it a try. Might hate it, might love it, but there's only one way to find out, isn't there? And to finish us off, it's Syndicate. Now, I think if you wanted the best Syndicate list, you'd just play Jackpot, because I think they've had like one provision change, and Horson's had a drop of 1 power. So I mean, you just jig around the provisions a little bit. Cut one card, chuck in another one. Job's good. And I think I'd look at the list I'd been using, and I think I took out Flying Redanian and just put in the cut ups tutors. I forget the name. Cut up thinning card. Sorry, just so we don't lose any thinning. And then I was kind of good to go from there. But for this list, it's a sort of tribute list, and it's running all 4 of the brothers, both the Blindheim and Borsoni brothers, and we're kind of looking to do a lot of the things that typical like meta syndicate does, but with a tribute twist to it, I guess. So we got the Louisa, we got the Savola, we got Fallen Railer in there. We've got like Salamander Mages, and I've even included the new Arena Ghouls, because Arena Ghouls are now 4 provisions, so they're basically 7 for 4s, which is what the value from Mutants Maker is already. It's kind of good. And we'll see how this gets on. We have a lot of poisons for removal, and just the top end of Syndicate is just naturally very good. Horson's still very, very good. Professor's still very good. Jox is still very good. Should be enough. Should be enough. And that is actually it. That is actually it. I've been recording these a bit out of jig. Forgot where I was up to, but yeah, Syndicate's the last one. I hope at least one of these lists will do something for you, and I kind of hope it will do something for me as well. As always, there will be plenty of videos coming up for the rest of the month. If I try one of these lists and I'm like, no, this is terrible, it may not get a video, because I'm not going to pretend the deck's good and advertise it to you all if it's just absolutely terrible. But if some of these lists actually work and I think they have potential, I'll chuck them in a video, a bit more of an in-depth guide. And if you're coming to this video sort of a week on, 2 weeks on after I've posted it, just check the description. I'll link to a full video for any of these decks if I end up doing one. And I think that's it from me. I'll be back on Thursday, and I will catch you later.